All right, let's talk about a project with a really, really ambitious goal. Smart Layer Network. They're trying to build a whole new layer of, well, smarts into smart contracts. Now we're going to skip the market hype. We're not going to look at price charts. Instead, we're going to dig into the tech itself, the real problems it's trying to solve, and, just as importantly, the huge challenges it's up against.
So, this question gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? We throw this term around all the time, smart contracts, but you have to wonder, how smart are they actually? And asking that question reveals a really fundamental limitation in how most of them work today.
And there it is. That's the answer. Plain and simple. For all their potential power, the huge majority of smart contracts are totally passive. You know, they're like a brilliant plan written down on a piece of paper, but they need someone to actually come along, pick up that paper, and get things started. They can't just get up and do it themselves. Okay, so let's just make sure we're all on the same page. A smart contract is just code, right? It runs when certain conditions are met. But here's the kicker, the part that so often gets glossed over. It needs an external trigger. Some other user or a bot or some outside service has to poke it and say, hey, wake up, it's time to run.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because this isn't just some minor technical detail. This dependency has major real-world consequences. I mean, think about DeFi liquidations. A contract can't just liquidate a bad loan on its own. It needs a bot watching the price feeds 24/7, ready to trigger that function. And that bot, it costs money to run, it could fail, and it's probably running on a centralized server somewhere. The exact same problem applies to things like recurring subscription payments. So this external reliance, it adds cost, it adds risk, and ironically, it adds a layer of centralization to what's supposed to be a decentralized world.
So now that we've laid out the problem pretty clearly, how do you fix it? Well, that brings us to Smart Layer Network, which was designed from the ground up to tackle this exact issue. And this is their core mission. It's that simple. Instead of contracts just sitting around waiting for a push, Smart Layer wants to give them the ability to act on their own. The whole goal is to make them proactive, not just reactive, to let them execute tasks based on time or events or complex conditions, all without needing that external poke. So how in the world do they actually pull this off? Well, it breaks down into a few key pieces. First, contracts can just run on a schedule, like a monthly subscription payment. Easy enough. Second, they can react to events, whether that's a price change happening on chain or even real-world data coming from an oracle. Third, they can coordinate actions across multiple contracts. And here, this last one, this is the secret sauce. The network has its own native incentives. The network itself pays for the work of running these automated tasks. The cost is baked right into the system, instead of being this extra thing you have to bolt on from the outside. That native incentive model is a really big deal. So let's actually compare Smart Layer to some of the other ways people are trying to automate things in crypto right now. This table really just lays it all out. On traditional blockchains like Ethereum or Solana, you have zero native automation. You always need an external trigger. Then you've got these awesome services like Gelato or Chainlink keepers, which are basically bot networks you can hire to poke your contracts for you. They work, for sure, but there's still an external service you're layering on top. Smart Layer is the only one here that's even attempting to build true native automation, with the incentives baked right into the protocol's DNA. I absolutely love this analogy because it makes the whole concept click. Most smart contracts today really are like puppets. They can do amazing things, but they're lifeless until an external operator, a bot, comes and pulls the strings. Smart Layer's vision is to turn them into self-winding clocks, these beautiful, intricate machines that can just operate on their own, according to their own internal logic. But, and this is a huge but, like with any groundbreaking idea, there is a massive gap between a cool concept on a whiteboard and real-world success. So, let's do a little reality check on the challenges of actually building this kind of new infrastructure. This is so important to remember. The market price for the Smart Layer token has dropped quite a bit since it launched. But honestly, that's pretty common for these deep, complex infrastructure projects. A powerful idea doesn't mean you get an instant market win, especially when building adoption can take years. The price is just one piece of the puzzle. It is definitely not the whole story. So if we're going to look past the price, what are the real signs of life for a project like this? Well, this is what we should be tracking. Are developers actually pushing code to GitHub? Are the developer tools any good? Is it easy to build on? And maybe most important of all, are real dApps actually integrating this stuff? Is the network even being used? These are the metrics that tell you if a cool idea is actually turning into a useful reality. And that path to reality is absolutely full of hurdles. First off, this technology is complex, which can make it tough for developers to jump in. It's also competing against solutions that are already out there and are, frankly, simpler to use even if they're not as elegant. And then there's the risk that the wider ecosystem just decides that, you know what, good enough automation with external bots is fine. Maybe true native automation isn't worth the extra headache. Success here is completely dependent on getting real partnerships and integrations. So, keeping all of those challenges in mind, what could the future actually hold? Let's game out a few potential scenarios for where a project like this could be by, say, 2026.
So right now, today, it's a powerful but very complex idea with some early signs of development. Now, looking ahead, there are a few ways this could go. Scenario 1, the best case. It becomes a foundational piece of Web3 infrastructure, just quietly humming in the background, powering automation for tons of dApps. Scenario 2, the more moderate outcome. It finds a specific niche, becoming the go-to solution for very particular, high-value tasks. And then, of course, there's the third scenario, where it just fails to get enough traction against the simpler, more established alternatives.
Ultimately, what it all boils down to is this. Can they win over developers? And can they prove that this kind of native automation is a genuine necessity, not just a cool novelty? The entire future of the project really hangs on the answers to those two questions. And that kind of leaves us with a much bigger question to think about. SmartLayer is one project's attempt at solving this puzzle, but the idea underneath it all is much larger. As more and more of our digital and financial lives become automated, how comfortable are we really with putting them on autopilot? Are we ever going to get to a point where we fully trust autonomous code to manage critical parts of our world with no human in the loop at all? Now that's something to chew on.